Hi, I'm Adrienne, and this is the Loud Reset podcast. And I am very excited about tonight's episode because it's my mom. You only have one of those in life, and this is my mother, Marianne. And I'm super excited to talk to her tonight for many reasons. Um, she has a lot of really cool and not so cool things that have happened over the years, but she is a survivor in a million different ways. So I did put some thoughts down because I'm an emotional person and I wanted to make sure I got it out and just like mouth vomit everywhere. So,
And I am too.
yes, yes. You'll find ways that we are very similar, I believe, during this. So, here's my thoughts. So, today's episode is a really special one because I get to sit down and talk with my mom. Over the years, our relationship has grown and shifted, especially since I became a mom myself. There's something about that change, about raising a child, that made me understand my own mother in a way I just couldn't before. My mom is one of the strongest people I know. She's been through more than most, and through it all, she's continued to show up for her family. She's raised 5 kids and somehow still managed to be a steady, safe place for each of us. She's taught me more than I can put into words about resilience, loyalty, and about what it means to be truly supportive, even when life is messy or really hard. I've always known she has my back 100%. So today, I just want to honor her story. She's a little nervous to be here, so we're going to just roll with that because sometimes this isn't easy stuff to talk about, but her journey is very important, and it's full of lessons of strength and perspective. I'm really proud to share her voice with all of you, so please enjoy a conversation between my mom and her baby.
Yeah.
So this is my mom, Marianne Witt. Marianne is one word,
It is.
Marianne. A lot of people do that wrong, but
Been explaining it all my life.
yes, yes, absolutely. So let's kind of learn all the way back from you. So where were you born and raised?
I was born in Mansfield, raised in Mansfield. Went to Madison High School, Madison schools.
And now what year were you born?
I was born in 1954.
Okay, so we don't have to do math.
I'm going to be 71 in July.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah. When you're making your way and raising your family, you don't ever think about being in your 70s.
No, no.
And sometimes you just you have to stop and remember, how old am I?
Yeah, I do that now at 40. So
Yeah.
I have to literally stop
Yeah.
and think, how old actually am I?
Yeah, and then I look at the ages of my children, and it really hits home.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Yes. I mean, in this day and age, like 70 plus, that's a long life.
it is.
That's a long life.
It
So
is.
it's definitely a lot to be proud of for sure. So tell us about your younger life, your family dynamic before you became an adult. So siblings, parents, what was that
Okay.
like?
Same mom and dad the whole time I was growing up. They were married for 37 years, I think, and then my mom passed away. I have one brother,
Mm-hmm.
and he's not quite 2 years older than me. We weren't really very close as little kids,
Mm-hmm.
but we're very close now.
Yeah.
I consider him to be one of my dearest friends, and I know that he would have my back no matter what.
Yeah.
My mom always worked. She was an accountant forever.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was in sales.
They were awesome. So that's my grandma Pat and
my
grandpa,
yeah.
basically. Murray. So Patricia and Murray.
My mom was very unique.
Yes. She
Very
was amazing.
unique. She was quite the character, and my dad was just an incurable flirt his entire life, but he was very handsome,
Mm-hmm.
and he loved
Very tall. He was like 6'4".
He's 6'4". He was
Mhm.
6'4", and he loved my mom a lot, and she
Mhm.
was difficult. She had
She was sassy.
she had a very strong personality and a very difficult health
Yes.
picture.
Yes. So my
But he
grandma
took
Pat
care of her.
had very extreme rheumatoid arthritis. And I have it now. I've had it since my early 20s, but nowhere near. I mean, she was in a wheelchair. She
Right.
had like the
Right.
hands, I don't know what it's even called, but very deformed hands
Excuse me.
and struggled a lot. And
She did.
she passed away at how old?
60, 63.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
No, you're fine.
And my grandmother died at 63, so
Yeah.
her mother.
Yeah.
So as I was approaching 63,
That's a mind fuck.
I was like,
Is this it?
One day past 63, I'm like, yes, I made it.
No,
So,
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
it was. But yeah, and she was an only child. My dad had a brother who was 18 years younger than he was.
Yeah. That's a big difference in
So,
age.
Yeah. I was real close to my grandparents, my dad's mom and dad.
And that's Grandma's sweetheart?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And I was close with my other grandma. There was never another grandpa on my mom's side.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. So
I mean,
this
there
is
was. Obviously, but
what's crazy about these, and I told this with Katie, there's going to be so much where I'm like, I'm sure I've been told this information at some point in my life,
Right.
but a lot of this stuff is going to be like, oh my God, I
Right.
had no idea. So I'm very excited. So
my
continue.
mom's dad was killed in an industrial accident when she was just tiny.
Yeah, I didn't know
tiny. And then my grandmother, I think she remarried a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
She always went by the last name of Garner because that was the last husband. But I don't think there was a constant female or male in my mom's life growing up.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Just my grandmother and her mostly.
Yeah.
So
I totally get that. Okay.
and then my dad was in sales, sold ready mix concrete, sold insurance when I was a little kid. I was real close with my dad.
Yeah.
Real close with my dad. And my brother is so much like him.
His voice, and when I look at him, I glance, I'm like, holy shit, it's Murray.
now that Mark is older, it's like looking at my dad.
It really is. Like when you see him from a distance, you think it's Murray, and it like takes you aback.
And when he calls me on the phone, it takes my breath away because he sounds just like Grandpa.
He really does.
Says the same thing, same phrases.
Yeah. And Grandpa's been gone for how long now?
Since 2012.
Yeah. So he's been gone for a while, and that's just genetics, just straight coming out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There's a lot of things I say where I'm like, I sound like my mother.
Oh, yeah.
My voice, everything.
Yeah.
And I feel like I sound more like Amanda. Like our laugh is very similar. I'll hear her laugh, and I'm like, is that me? Or is that... So I'm excited for her to come on, too, because we have a lot of similarities,
Well,
too.
when all of you kids were at home, especially the girls, you all sounded the same as me on the phone. And your dad was driving truck at that point. He would call home, start talking, and you would all have to say, Dad, this isn't Mom. Hold on just a second. I'll get her, because all your voices sounded so similar.
Oh, yeah.
I can tell them apart now, but...
Yeah. Do you hear that noise? Mm-hmm. I think my furnace turned on or something, or the AC. I don't know. This is all new stuff, so I'm learning to deal with it all.
We'll just deal with the rumble.
Yes, yes. So, growing up, elementary school, junior high, what was your, what kind of kid were you? Did you play outside all the time? Were you inside all the time?
We weren't inside. No. Bikes.
And this is we're in 60s or late 50s?
Well...
If you were born in 50 what?
54,
okay.
We moved to a house on Esley Lane, and I went into first grade from there.
Okay.
So we lived there until I was junior high, and then we moved to a house down on 39. But riding bikes, playing at the school, playing out till the streetlights came on.
Yep.
We were a family that we didn't go out. We went out for dinner about once a week, but most other nights we ate at home. My dad did most of the cooking.
Yeah.
Mark built model cars and read car magazines, and just normal childhood. Nothing, no great.
That's what
shakes.
you want. Yeah.
Nothing traumatic.
Yeah.
Other than my mom's health.
Yeah. That's hard.
But she always worked.
Yeah.
I think what kept her going was that she kept going.
Oh, absolutely.
Up until she absolutely could not go anymore. She always worked. She always went to work. It was a struggle for a lot of days, but she was strong.
She was
strong.
She was, and I was below 9. I was younger than 9. Actually, probably 5 or so. What year did she die?
She died in 90. 3.
Okay, so I was 8. No, I was born in 84, so whatever that math is. Yeah, that's about 10. I don't know. I remember it, though.
Yeah.
I remember it.
Yeah.
And then you got into high school, and it was not quite the 70s, or you were approaching into the 70s when you were in high school?
I graduated in 72.
Okay.
So I would have started, at that time, it was, 1 through 6 at the elementary, 7, 8, and 9 at the junior high, 10, 11, and 12 at the senior high.
Yeah.
They've rearranged it since then.
Yeah.
But, so I started high school in 69, I guess.
So what did you wear to high school in that time of year?
We weren't allowed to wear pants.
Okay.
Until I was a senior.
Wow, okay.
And then it wasn't jeans.
Dress
pants. It had to be
pants.
dress pants. In junior high, it was wool skirts, knee socks, sweaters. Always. Yeah. Forever and ever, And
that's not a uniform. That's just what the girls wore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's senior picture in my yearbook is a round neck sweater with a pearl necklace.
Yeah.
Hair parted down the middle, bangs tucked behind your ears, and curls.
Yeah.
Everybody.
I believe it. And I always laugh at Dad's. I don't know if it's a senior picture. He looks like a young Bob Saget.
He does.
Like, it's literally a young Bob Saget.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's hilarious.
He was 125 pounds
right.
in high school.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But high school was pretty much the same as far as what we wore. The boys could not have their hair touching their collar.
Okay.
No facial hair, absolutely none. No sandals.
Yeah.
It had to be closed-toed shoes.
Yep. Was did they do corporal punishment? Did you get your ass beat at school, or
I never did?
Well, yeah, of course. But
in junior high,
was that a thing?
I think Dad did. It was in junior high.
Yeah.
By the time you got to high school, I don't know. I was a good kid.
Yeah, I can remember because when I was young in elementary school, obviously corporal punishment was not a thing, but we had already said as a family that we were moving from Utah to Ohio, and I remember some random news article on TV that talked about how Ohio schools do corporal punishment. Now, mind you, this is coming from a kid who never got in trouble at school.
I remember you sitting on the edge of the bed, bawling your eyes out, afraid that you were going to get your butt beat at school.
And I don't get in trouble, like, ever.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I was so afraid of that. So that's hilarious. But that's crazy that they did that. It's wild to me that they would beat their ass with a paddle. Put these kids in their place.
Yeah.
I'm not saying bring it back, but kids these days are awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
Yeah. There would have never been enough money in the world for me to be a school teacher, especially junior high.
No, it's like the
kids
worst.
are awful.
They really are. So when you were in high school, like, did you get a driver's license? Did you have a car? Did you work during high school?
I did. Well, when I was a senior,
okay.
I got a job when I got my driver's license. I turned 16, like, between junior and senior year, I guess.
Mm-hmm. That's probably about right.
No,
or sophomore to junior.
Sophomore to junior.
Yeah.
And at that time, driver's ed was part of the school curriculum.
Even with me, too, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So I got my driver's license took my driver's test in a snowstorm.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I had a car.
How, though? You're in July. Your birthday's in July.
But you couldn't,
you
had to take driver's ed, and it was
right.
according to the school schedule.
That's
so
right.
6 months later,
it
was the middle of the winter.
Yeah.
I did have a car.
Mm-hmm.
It was a 63 Biscayne Chevy.
I don't even know what that is. So did you buy it yourself? Did Grandma and Grandpa buy it for you? How do you get a car?
My mom and Dad bought it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like a big old boat heater, but it was my car.
Yeah.
So
what color was it?
Green.
Nice.
And it didn't have an air cleaner on it, so when I went up the hill, like on Ashland Road, it sounded like a jet engine. But
I bet it sounded great.
Yeah.
Got you from point A to point B.
Right, exactly.
Good.
So, and then by then I was going with Dad.
Yeah.
So he always had a car.
Yeah. Oh, so it was my furnace. The noise stopped.
Yep.
So, yeah, a little bit cleaner now.
But when I was a senior, I went to school half a day and worked half a day. I was in it was called distributive education.
Mm-hmm.
It was a work school program.
Yeah.
And I went to work at Conley's.
Which is like a department store?
Was like a TJ Maxx kind of, only with hardware and paint. And small appliances and stuff like that. It was over on Ashland Road where all those storage units are.
By like where Big Lots was at one point?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
And there was like probably 10 of us that went to Madison that worked there.
Yeah. And you were just living by the high school at this point, right? Is that where Grandma and Grandpa lived? When you were in high school, where did you live in Mansfield?
On 39.
Okay. That's right. I did know that. Yeah.
Where that Pacific Impressions landscaping, there used to be a house there.
I do remember that.
And that's where we lived.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So worked, and then what grade did you meet Dad?
When I was a sophomore.
Okay. And
I mean, I had known him my whole life.
Yeah. Like elementary school and all that.
He was Vernon Road. I was Esley Lane. Mm-hmm. So we knew who each other was. Yeah. In grade school.
That's awesome. That's great. And that is so rare these days. I think your generation, obviously, it's a little bit more prevalent. But I'm like, yeah, my folks have been together for a long time. Yeah. A long time. You're celebrating this September what?
53.
53 years. Married for 53 years.
And we started going together when I was 14.
Yeah. So, I know. It's wild.
It's crazy.
Okay. So Dad graduates. You're at school for 2 more years.
One more year.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then did you go to college? What was
I did not go to college. We got married. Mm-hmm. I graduated in June.
I think this is falling. No, you're good. I can hear you just fine.
I graduated in June. We got married in September. Mm-hmm. We got engaged like the December before that. Yeah. Dad had given me a promise ring when I was a junior, I think. Mm-hmm. And then we picked out rings, put them in layaway, and he went and picked them up. And when we went to show Grandpa and Grandma, my dad said, I absolutely forbid it.
Whoops.
And
so why though? Did he not like Dad? Was he just like, you're too young? Like, what was his?
I was too young.
Yeah, but you were 18, 19, right?
I was going to be 18 in July.
Yeah.
He was just unsure of Dad. Yeah. Dad kind of ran with the bad boys. Mm-hmm. They drank and smoked and drove fast cars. And, and Uncle Mark was there and just looked at my dad and said, that's what you're going to go with? You absolutely forbid it? Right. I mean, she's been going with this guy since she's 14. She's had a promise ring on her finger. What did you think was going to happen?
Yeah, and I can hear Mark saying that to Grandpa. Like, it's so funny. Yeah. A younger version of them, of course.
Yeah. So I wanted to get married in June. Mm-hmm. And I guess I had turned 18 the summer before. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't remember. Yeah. But they said, no, we won't. You still had to have your parents sign.
Oh, even at 18?
Till you were 21.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
So they said, no, we won't sign in June. I said, okay, how about the fall? Mm-hmm. And they said, okay. And I said, okay, September.
Yeah. And not like November.
No. They said, okay. And I said, okay, the first Saturday in September. So September 2nd. Okay. Got married.
Very cool. So, that's coming up.
It is.
That's coming up. I know.
I can't believe how fast May is like disappeared.
I know. It's done. Yeah. It's done. Yeah. So you and Dad got married, and then obviously you moved into a house together, lived around town. What did those first early years look like?
When we first got married, we lived on Helen Avenue off of West 4th Street in a ratty old upstairs apartment. I worked at Conley's, and then I went to work at Reed's, which was a big fancy department store that was downtown.
Like a Macy's or like upscale? Or...
It was like upscale. Okay. It was like the place to shop downtown. It was like 4 or 5 floors and top quality merchandise and the best customer service ever. Yeah. I worked in the shoe department, which I loved. We moved from 4th Street, or from Helen Avenue, let's go on the corner of 4th Street and Helen Avenue, to Ashland. Mm-hmm. Dad was working by then he was working at Hawkins.
Yeah, grocery store.
Downtown, yeah. The one that was on Center Street. And he worked there for quite a while because we moved to Ashland. Let me backtrack here. Because at one point he went to work for Bueller's and we moved to Creston, Ohio. Yeah. But we were only up there for like 3 months. Yeah. We just hated it up there.
Well, you guys moved a lot in our life.
Yeah, we sat down and wrote it down one time, and it was like some ridiculous number, like 59 times or something.
Oh, my hell. That's insane, literally.
I mean, we would move across town to save $10.
Yeah. I think that's what that generation did, though. Like, yeah.
And after Sarah was born, we thought, well, we wanted to buy a house. And we looked at a house on Woodville Road. We had lived in an apartment on Cliffbrook, was one of those off down in the gully there off Woodville Road. And we looked at a house on Woodville Road closer to Diamond Street, and we were paying $160 a month rent in the apartment.
Wow.
The house was going to cost $175, and we could not, in our stupid little young married brains, figure out where that extra $15 would come from.
Isn't that wild?
So we didn't buy it.
Isn't that wild?
Didn't think we could afford it.
And it's not like these days where it's like, oh, just stop getting Starbucks, or just like to the penny.
Oh my gosh,
to the penny.
But if like when we were first married, if I went to the grocery store and spent $25, that was a week's worth of groceries.
Yeah.
And then some.
Yeah, which that's not anything at all right now.
You can't buy bread and milk for that.
No, it's awful.
So yeah,
it's awful.
It was. So we were married about not quite 3 years when Sarah was born.
Sarah's obviously the first child, my oldest sister.
Who's going to be 50.
Yep.
In July.
Old. Sarah, you're old.
She's the best looking, best, most fit, amazing 50-year-old I have ever seen.
She's a freak, and I'm going to get her on this podcast again. She's a little like, I don't know, I'm not cool enough. Absolutely. So, yes.
If I'm cool enough, she's cool.
She's a freak for fitness, and I love it.
Yeah.
She's very inspiring.
Yeah.
So she was born. Did you still work when you had a baby? Like
I did not.
Okay.
I did not.
And Dad did what when Sarah was born?
He was cutting meat at Hawkins.
Okay.
Working at Hawkins when she was born. Yeah.
And then Michael came along not too much longer.
19 months.
Is that the whole Irish twin? Are they considered that? Or
no.
what is the rule with that?
Katie's girls are Irish twins. Less than 2 years.
Yeah.
Or less than a year and a half. I don't know. They're 13 months apart.
Okay,
so.
yeah. But Mike and Sarah are not that close.
No, they're like 19 months, I think.
Okay.
Both in diapers. We lived with Grandma Witt when Michael was born.
Okay.
We had moved around so many times and had moved to Utah.
Yes. So, yeah, we need to talk about how you even end up clear across the country when everyone lives out here.
Have you ever noticed the gypsy earring in your father's ear?
No.
Because I think he's part gypsy.
He does move around.
The reason why we moved around so much. We moved to Utah the first time when Sarah was about 8 months old, I think.
So Michael not born yet.
Michael not born yet.
Why does this feel like I'm learning this information for the first time? Like so how do you even get out there?
The Mormon church.
Okay.
We joined the Mormon church back here.
Okay.
Made some really good friends. And Virgil's sister, Susan, was in Utah and said,
Okay, so that I didn't know. I didn't know there was I know there was a family staple out there that
Susan
she had moved out
there in Brigham City. So we moved out there. We stayed with them for, a couple months, I think. And then we got an apartment. And then we moved from Brigham City out to west of Salt Lake. Magna, Utah. And from there, I got pregnant for Michael. And from there, we came back to Ohio.
Because Michael was born in Ohio.
Michael was born in
Ohio. So
he
was conceived in Utah, born in Ohio. So you traveled across the country while you were pregnant?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Like 7.5 months pregnant.
My God.
And in December.
Yeah, because he's born in February.
Right.
What did you drive at this point? Were you in a U-Haul or like?
No, well, we had a big old Chevy Impala, 2-door, like a coupe,
With a newborn and pregnant.
Well, Sarah was just about a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's almost worse than a newborn, though, as far as like demanding. Yeah.
And we pulled a U-Haul, and it weighed the car down so much that it would like the fenders were on the tires when we were coming through the mountains.
Oh my God. And if you've never made that drive, it's at least 3 days. Yeah. It can be longer, it can be shorter, but when we moved here, it's 3 full days.
It took us normally it's like about a 5-hour drive to Chicago. Took us about 12 hours because the road was literally a path. It had snowed so much.
Did you have anxiety back then? Like, how do you get through that physically? I feel like that would send me to so many different levels of insane.
I don't know. We were young and foolish. God. And I mean,
this is no technology. So it's not like you can scroll your phone or look at anything. You got to stare out the damn window.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We were lucky to find a radio station. I mean, here I am 7.5 months pregnant, very pregnant.
Yeah. Because Michael was a huge-ass baby.
Michael was a big baby.
Yeah.
So I've got this toddler waltzing on my lap for 2,500 miles or 2,000 miles. Oh, my God. Because no seatbelts and all
that shit. None of that shit mattered. No.
Not even a car seat, I don't think.
No, probably not.
So we came back. We moved in with Grandma Witt.
Hang on, Sarah, it's lucky you're alive.
It is.
Okay.
It's lucky she is, as bright as she is, because, I mean, the first one, we knew nothing. We knew nothing about the first child.
Yeah.
So we moved in with Grandma Witt. Michael was born while we lived with Grandma Witt.
And that's here in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
On Vernon Road.
Yep.
And then from there, we moved back to Ashland.
Mm-hmm. And you didn't work, still stayed home with the kids. Yep.
Stayed home with the kids. Dad went back to work at Hawkins.
Okay. And then you ended up back in Utah for the rest of us.
Then we went back to Utah.
Yeah. And about what year was that?
That would have been 1978.
Okay. And you lived where?
We lived in Roosevelt.
Okay. Yep. And that's, if you don't know Utah, that's like the fucking sticks. It's the boonies, Neola, all that.
Indian reservation.
Yeah.
High desert.
Yes.
No green.
Yeah. Dry.
Yeah. Yeah. About, 40 minutes from the Colorado border.
Yeah. Yeah. I had no idea we were that close.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. You could get to Colorado, not very far.
Yeah. I have very minimal perspective and remembrance of things out west, back out then, but it was a while.
Well, we left the Uinta Basin when you were 5.
Yeah.
So
I was
your
small.
Memories are Ogden.
Yeah. I have some before that.
Right.
Very, very minimal though.
Right.
So Amanda, born in Utah.
Amanda was born in Roosevelt.
Mm-hmm.
Katie was born in Kaysville.
Mm-hmm. And how far apart are Amanda and Michael?
4 years.
Okay, and then Katie and Amanda are
18 months.
And then Katie and I are 2.5
years. Yeah.
So from Sarah being born Sarah and I are 9 years apart. So it was all of us under the age of 9 by the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Sarah was 9 when you were born.
Yeah.
And I was 30.
Yeah.
So
that's a lot of babies.
It is.
Under 30, Mom. Like, what did you guys know what was causing it?
Oh, we knew.
Now, how many of us were planned? Because I know not all of us were. I know I wasn't. Maybe Sarah,
I don't ever remember having a conversation with your dad saying it's time to have another baby or I want to have another baby or everybody says how did you get so many kids? Lots of sex.
Yeah, that's literally the only way. That's literally the only way.
Yeah. And if I hadn't said with you, I think I'm done.
Probably would have had more.
We would have had more because Dad was happy with whatever, however many.
Yeah.
He loved babies.
Yeah.
He still does.
But honestly, like, chaos.
It was busy life.
Yeah.
Busy life.
Very busy. Because, like, I have one child, and sometimes I'm like, oh, my God, there's so much going on all the time. But, like, my neighbors across the street now, I feel like I'm watching my life kind of in reverse because they're a young family, and they've got 5 young kids, and I'm like, this is my childhood. But then I'll hear, like, screaming at random hours, and I'm like...
It was loud, and it was chaotic, and it was... hard.
But financially,
financially,
was that?
Dad always worked.
Yep.
He had a lot of different jobs, but he always worked. We always had food on the table and a roof over our heads. It might not have been the fanciest.
We always had clothes. We always had Christmas.
You guys always had Christmas. We always had clean clothes.
Yep.
And
that's what I tell people. I'm like, I had a great childhood. It was there was a lot going on all the time, and we're a very loud group, but it was fun.
And see, our memories of it were that, oh my gosh, we're struggling so bad for these children.
Yep.
Hopefully they turn out all right and they don't have memories of this being just horrible.
Yeah, yeah.
And you don't, thank goodness.
Yeah, and
so
there's so much that goes on in your childhood that you look back and you're like, when you're a parent, you're like, oh my God, you can't imagine, or like the situations that happen. And I read so many things about like birth order and like how things are in life for you because where you fall in that birth order. And something I find so fascinating is that each one of us know you both so differently.
Right.
Because of where you were at in your life when we were born, the relationships with everybody else, and how that evolves. And I'm like, when you stop and think about that, it's so fascinating. Like the mom I know is not the same mom that Sarah knows, or Amanda knows, or Michael.
And I have a different relationship with each one of my children because of the fact that Sarah was the first.
Yep.
You know,
Michael's the only boy.
Michael's the only boy.
Yep.
Amanda's the typical middle child.
Yep.
Katie's like, she said when she was graduating that her Indian name should be Baby with No Pictures because we just didn't have any, you know, and then you were the baby. So that created a different dynamics.
I'm the most special. But what I say, I'm like, by the time it got to me, nothing could shock them. Like, I didn't get in trouble as a kid. I was a good kid. But even if I did, I'm like, the three, Sarah, Mike, Amanda, you all know what you did growing up. It was easy when it got to me.
Yeah.
And Katie and I were super just like,
chill.
You were. We behaved. We didn't.
Good grades.
Yes.
Went to school. Did activities.
Yeah.
Didn't get in any trouble.
Yeah. The three above us did enough for that of all of us.
You know, and with you being advanced a year.
Yeah.
So you started high school as a very young freshman.
Yes.
But you were at the high school, so yes, you were able to do high school things.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember, the two oldest ones especially saying, we never got to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
When we,
I get away with everything, apparently. Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
right. And I said, well, she's in the high school.
Yeah.
She's emotionally mature enough to be in high school. I'm not worried about the fact that she's getting to do these things.
Yeah. Yeah. And like all my friends, like
I was tired.
No kidding. And I hung out with like Katie and her friends and had those older friends.
Yeah.
So when we were all young, you stayed home, obviously, because that would just financially, there'd be no way to do that.
It was, there's no way we could have afforded childcare.
No. No. So when we ended up in school, all of us were out at school. What did that look like for you and Dad when I was in, say, kindergarten or preschool? Did you go back to work? What did you? I feel like I have vague memories of things, but I'm not.
I didn't go back to work part-time even till you were like in third grade.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to work at Harmon's.
Yeah, that I remember. I remember you being a very active PTO. Like you were in my classroom a lot helping with that. Yes.
At Neola Elementary, I was like the PTO president for like 4 years. And that was, I loved that. It was fun.
Yeah.
That kept me busy a lot.
Yeah.
Just, raising 5 kids, laundry, food.
It's never ending.
Activities, you know, and by the time Michael started, he was playing baseball and Sarah was playing, I don't know what Sarah was doing when Michael was playing baseball. She didn't start playing volleyball till high school.
Yeah. And then Michael did dirt bikes and all that. I remember that. And so, and I say this with the most love because it's basically myself too, but I get my type A from my mother and she likes a tidy house and I like a tidy house. So like growing up, our house was clean. Things were in their spot. There was a dinner on the table every night. We all sat down at a table and ate dinner every night. Like that was our normal in our household. And that shit does not come together easily. So like 5 kids, young,
well, it was
keeping
like,
a house.
You get breakfast over with, get it all cleaned up, and then it's time to make lunch.
Yeah.
You get it all cleaned up, and when you were tiny, get everybody situated for a nap, and then get started on supper. And in between all of that, you're doing loads of laundry, or you're...
It's never ending.
Right.
It's never ending. So I can't imagine carrying a job with that too. No.
Yeah.
No. And Dad was working where at this point? When we're all in school?
When we lived in Roosevelt, he was working in the oil field.
Okay.
Driving a truck.
Yeah.
Water truck.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the bottom fell out of the oil field and we decided to move into Ogden, he went back to cutting meat.
That I remember.
And he did that for maybe a year. And then he went back to driving truck when he worked at Bulkmatic for so many years.
Yeah. So then we grow up a little bit. So this, if I'm remembering right, this stage in life is when I'm in elementary school, 6th grade. We're back in Ohio. So when we moved, what made you guys decide to move back to Ohio, where we've settled now?
Amanda.
Okay.
Was going down the wrong path, running with the wrong kids.
Yep.
And we wanted to, for Utah being supposedly such a family-oriented state because of the LDS Church, things were not good in Ogden.
No, they weren't. I actually have memories
the schools were not good. There was a police presence in the schools. There was a lot of crap going on.
Yeah, and that's not normal because we're in like the early 90s now.
Right.
Yeah, like I can remember my elementary school. I was the minority as an English-speaking kid, so there nothing against minority whatsoever, but there was a lot of gang violence in Ogden.
Right.
That's when like Bloods and Crips were really prevalent in the 90s, and I felt it in elementary school. Like there were little 5th graders talking about Bloods and Crips, like, and then that area went. It's beautiful now, but like that area went through a rough time.
And, Amanda was getting involved in some things that we didn't want to, and Dad and I said we need to get our family out of this place, out of this situation, so that she doesn't get in trouble. Yeah. And Michael was doing his thing. He was involved in some things that he shouldn't have been, and so it was. But he was a senior in high school. Yeah. And he had just graduated when we moved back, and he wasn't sure. Up until the time he graduated. He wouldn't come home. Yeah. We couldn't find him. Yeah. Once he graduated, we couldn't get him off the couch.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
So it was kind of on the fence whether he was going to come along, but he did.
Yeah,
I
can hear you. It's driving me crazy that it's like falling.
And so we talked about moving to the Pacific Northwest because Sarah was up there by then. She'd gotten married and was up where she is. But we just felt like that was going to be too much. Yeah. We didn't know anybody. Yeah. We just didn't feel like that was the right move, so we said, well, we'll go back to Ohio. Yeah. Go back home. Yeah. So.
And back here was your mom and dad? No.
Was my dad.
Yeah. Grandpa had moved back. Mark was back here. Mark had never moved from Ohio. He's always stayed in Ohio.
Always stayed in Ohio.
And then none of Dad's siblings. Dad's siblings were all out there.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you came back here, and that I started 6th grade here. So whatever year that is.
95.
95. Moved in on Esley Lane. And 6th grade, I think, is when your health started to turn for the first time, when the first round of cancer came in. Is
96.
That right? Yeah. Yeah.
So
let's talk about that.
Okay.
So my memory of is you having breast cancer out the gate first, right? That was the first start of like all the things came after that. Okay, so how did you figure out you had breast cancer?
I found a lump.
Okay.
And went to the doctor. Went to the women's care or whatever it was called then.
Yeah,
the group.
Still women's care. Yeah.
It was called the group then or something. Yeah. And got in right away, and they said, we need you to see a surgeon, which, puts the fear of God in you. So I went to the surgeon, Dr. Dietrich. And he said, this needs to come out, whatever it is. It's not normal. So and it was, the way he explained it to me, I could have a lumpectomy followed by radiation. Chemo didn't come into play unless it had spread to my lymph nodes. Or I could have a mastectomy. Yeah. Well, at that point in my life, I could not make the decision to have a mastectomy.
That's a tough decision. You're literally removing a piece of your body.
And always, up until then, I'd always said, if I ever get breast cancer, I'll just have a mastectomy. It's no big deal. Yeah. I'll just have my breast taken off. Well, I couldn't make that decision. Yeah. So,
when you're faced with it, you're like,
and when he explained it the way he did, the survival rate was even. Yeah. Lumpectomy, radiation, or mastectomy. The chemotherapy came into play because it had spread to my lymph nodes.
Yeah.
So that was in 96. I did 3 rounds of extremely aggressive chemo.
I remember.
Which was worse than the disease could ever be.
I mean, it's poison. Chemo is actual poison, yeah.
And by the third, because it was, they randomly select you for this protocol, which is nothing more than an experiment.
Yeah.
And they had, in 3 rounds, I had like triple the dose of what I would have normally had I said, no, I don't want to be in the protocol. I just want the standard treatment for breast cancer. So after the 3rd round, I said, I'm done. Because I still was looking at 33 radiation treatments.
Holy shit.
So I stopped the chemo, did the radiation, which radiation is a piece of cake compared to chemo.
Yeah.
I mean, you get a radiation burn, and it makes you incredibly tired.
Yeah.
But that was 96. Then the effects of the chemotherapy, the radiation, the whole thing, I started bleeding. Ended up in 97 having a hysterectomy.
And I remember that night. That night was so crazy because I remember when we found out you had cancer because I was getting ready to go on like a roller skating thing with like my youth group or something. And I was at a friend's house and I was told to come home. And you had sat us all down and told us Mom has cancer. And then I still remember you guys saying, go to the skating thing. And I went to the skating thing and I sat in a booth and it's one of those videos for like a clip from a movie where you just like, you completely disassociate because it's like, what the hell is actually going on? And I'm a young kid. I'm in 6th grade. Like that's a lot
you say cancer, you think they're going to die.
Yeah.
My mom's going to die.
Yep. And I can remember.
I thought I was going to die.
Oh, yeah. I can remember you being so just fragile and just so wrung out from the treatment.
Yeah.
Like, just awful. Absolutely
awful. It was just awful. Yeah.
And then I remember the night you
passed
out. You bled out. Yeah. Because, again, I was at a friend's house, came home, and I can remember seeing the ambulance in the driveway and, like, they were taking you away. And then full hysterectomy then. Yep. And did they determine what caused that or what was the issues with that?
Chemotherapy just wreaks havoc with your hormones. And it attacks the healthy cells as much as it attacks the cancer cells.
Yeah.
That's why it's so difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
But after I had the hysterectomy, then my health improved.
Yeah. And how old are you at this point?
I'm 42.
Okay, so your first round of cancer shows up at 42.
At 41.
41, which if you don't know anything, that's very, very young.
It's very young, yeah.
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 Okay.
So hysterectomy at 42. And things kind of, I was on the upswing then. Yeah. Was healthier, got, recovered quite a bit. Then like in 2003, I was having regular checkups with the surgeon and everybody. Dr. Dietrich noticed he didn't know what it was. So we did a needle biopsy and it was nothing. It was nothing. So just continued to monitor. Then in 2000,
there we go.
10, I think, the cancer came back. Same side, same breast. Just started like the scar started changing, mutating or something. Back to the doctor, did a needle biopsy, couldn't find anything. But Dr. Dietrich's advice was, we may not have found anything on a needle biopsy, but the thing with a needle biopsy is if they don't exactly hit the cancer cells,
it's going to miss something.
It's going to miss something. Yeah. So at that point, I really didn't have any choice but to have a mastectomy.
Yeah.
Because I'd already had surgery on that side. So I had a mastectomy in, I want to say 2011, 10 or 11. I don't know. A year later, and it was cancer again.
Yeah.
I didn't do any chemo. I said, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. After the first time I did it, I had said to Dr. Dietrich and to the oncologist, I will not do chemotherapy again. I would consider radiation, because it's not as horrible.
Right.
So I didn't do chemo. Well, what if it comes back? Well, if it comes back, I'm going to need the rest of my systems to fight it off again, It did come back. I did the chemotherapy. It came back anyway. It's not a preventative.
Yeah, no.
Well, they've made lots of, advancements with the chemotherapy. No, what they've made advancements with, and Katie may disagree with me on this, is the treatment of the side effects.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
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 So, had the mastectomy, did about 15 rounds of radiation. And then a year later, they found some microscopic changes in the other side. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Dietrich, who, he's basically like saved my life 4 times.
Right. He's great.
Said we can either watch it, we can do some biopsies. And I said, or I can just have a mastectomy and not worry about it
just
anymore.
Just get rid of it. Yeah.
So that's what I did.
Yeah. So that had to be such a hard, even just the first mastectomy and then to make that decision for a double, that has to be just an absolute mind fuck as a woman, and just what that does to your self-esteem and how you look at yourself and your relationship with dad or the intimacy or all that. Like, it has to mess with your head.
Right. By the time I got to the mastectomies, we were that much older.
Oh, yeah.
But when I was 41, my boobs were a big part of what I was.
Absolutely. Like, I'm 40 now, and I'm like, I can't imagine.
Right.
I can't imagine.
And it was a big part of my intimacy.
Yeah.
With my partner. So it was a hard decision to make.
Oh, yeah.
But,
when you're looking at a tit or your life...
Right.
It's easy to say that, but you have to kind of look at it that way.
And like I said, I always said, well, I'll just have my breast off. But it was just a decision I couldn't make at that time. Yeah. And then by the time I got to where I had to make that decision, it was like, okay.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
So now there's no more room for breast cancer to come into play.
No, I don't think so. Knock on wood.
Yeah. So when you had the double mastectomy, how old were you? What year are we looking at here?
Well, I had one year and one the next year.
Okay.
So 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
Either 10 and 11 or 11 and 12. I'd have to look at the paper.
And there was another sickness or something before that, because when I was having Layla in the hospital, you were in the hospital as well as a patient when I was having Layla.
My gallbladder.
Yes. Which that was a huge ordeal for them to figure that out.
Yes.
Yeah.
I started just feeling really crappy. Pain. I thought I was having a heart attack one time. Went to the emergency room 3 different times.
Yeah.
And when Layla was born was one of the times I was in the hospital just overnight. They could not figure out what it was.
Yeah. Don't you love that? They treat you like you're fucking crazy. Right. You're like, you're right. I love being here making
give you
this
some
up.
pain meds and say, well, go home.
Yep.
Because I didn't have gallstones, they said, well, it's not your gallbladder. Well, it was.
Yeah, and it took a long time to figure it out.
Katie finally said, Mom, you need to have what's called a HIDA scan. So I did that, and, the results of that were, like, immediate.
Yeah.
And Dr. Dietrich said, your gallbladder's got to come out. It's full of sludge. It's not functioning. You've created this system-wide infection. My pancreas was starting to shut down, and just so I had my gallbladder out. That was 2000. Layla was born in 2008. That was like January of 2009, I think.
Yeah. And then since then, things kind of leveled out.
Well, then I was pretty good for quite a while.
Yeah. And so so obviously I'm the youngest. I have a child at this point. So what does your life look like with Dad at this point? What did you guys do? Were you working? Where you were living in Mansfield on Esley Lane?
On Esley Lane.
What was your day to day? Dad was working. What was Dad doing?
Dad was driving truck.
Okay. And you did real estate.
Bought his own truck.
Yep.
We ran our own trucking company, got our own trucking authority and everything, and that turned out to be just
a life lesson.
A huge,
We'll just call it a life lesson.
A nightmare. Or whatever. The worst financial decisions we've ever made. But
life lesson.
A life lesson. But yeah. And from there, he went to work for a trucking company and drove truck.
Yeah.
A couple different places, and then ended up with, where the heck WW.
Yeah. Yeah. It's too many to remember.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So,
and this is the 2000s. When did you do real estate? You did real
I
estate
started real estate. I started working in the office at Herring in 2003.
Yeah.
And then got my license like a year later. Was at Herring for a while. I think I went to Remax in 2005.
Yeah.
And then I worked at Remax as an agent for a couple years. And then the house burnt down.
Yes, house fire.
The house burnt down, and I had stopped doing real estate at that point. I was going to be working at Embark, the telephone company.
Yeah.
Was just going through the training for that. Had the house fire. And so I said, I can't come to work.
Yeah.
My house just burned
down. Fuck all this. I'm not working.
Right.
Yeah. I'm kind of rebuilding my life.
Yeah. So Dad took a leave of absence from his job while we were getting the house squared away, getting the old one torn down, deciding on a new one, deciding what we wanted to do. And after I'd been off for quite a while, I went to work in the office at Remax. And I worked there until 2010.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
In the office.
Yeah.
And I liked that. I enjoyed that job.
Yeah. I can remember going in and visiting and stopping in and whatnot. Yeah.
When they had all the agents and everybody was doing well and real estate was booming, it was a fun job. It was a good place to work.
Yeah.
But then when real estate started to go downhill and everybody got panicked and greedy and everything, it just...
Yeah. You're like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
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 Absolutely. So we're all grown up. So what do you do for fun? What is a day in the life of mom?
Now?
Yeah. Because your mom and dad are both retired now.
Yeah.
So what fills your days? What do you enjoy doing?
Well, and just kind of a comment on retirement. Dad's been out of the truck. I mean, I retired after the second go around of breast cancer.
Yeah.
And all that. I didn't work anymore.
No.
Because in amongst all of that stuff, I was being diagnosed with celiac.
Yeah. That was a battle.
And that was a battle to get that finally nailed
down.
That
took a toll on your body.
Right.
Physically.
Right.
Big time. Yeah.
Right. Well, and with my gallbladder, made me so sick. I lost 70 pounds in 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And
that's muscle mass and that's depletion.
And that's, it's impossible to get that all back.
Yeah.
So,
and not to mention the strength you lose when you do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And like I always say, I was heavy. I was way too heavy, but I sure was stronger.
Oh, yeah.
Than
absolutely.
I ever will be again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Dad started having heart issues in 2016 and had to get out of the truck.
Yeah.
Couldn't get his medical card renewed.
I remember. Yeah.
So he had to retire. And it's a huge shift in gears. I mean, this man had worked 80 hours a week as long as I'd ever been with him.
Yeah.
So it's taken, I mean, I know it's been quite a few years by now, but it was a real adjustment.
Oh, yeah.
To have him around all the time.
Yeah.
And twiddling his thumbs.
Yeah.
And, at this point, he's had some health issues. I have some health issues. So we just kind of take every day as it comes.
And you have to. You have to.
We don't. We like to travel.
Yeah.
We'd like to travel. But the expense and the stamina that it takes.
Yeah. Well, traveling is stressful. Even I consider myself a healthy person, even with my autoimmune and whatnot. It's exhausting. There's so many things that can go wrong.
And,
it's
not being in your own bed and not being with your own things. And, if you have pets, you have that stress that you have to worry about them. And so we don't go out a lot. Yeah. We are perfectly happy just being at home.
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of how I am too, because that's how we grew up. We hung out at home. All of our stuff is there. You know what I mean? We enjoy that.
Right. Yeah. And we like to go out now and then.
Yeah.
We're not really big fans of going out to eat.
Yeah. Well, it's too expensive. And I always feel like shit when I eat out.
Exactly.
Always.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I love to cook.
Yes.
the kitchen is my happy place.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a big deal that I have to cook supper every night.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, I actually enjoy doing this.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah. So cooking, I know you like to read.
I like to
what
read.
Some of your hobbies you have?
I like growing things.
Mm-hmm.
I love houseplants.
Yep.
We don't do a garden anymore.
It's a lot of work.
Right back to the stamina thing.
Mm-hmm.
I used to like to sew.
Mm-hmm. It's hard.
It's
hard on your hands.
It's frustrating for me at this point.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. TV. We like TV. We love TV.
Mm-hmm.
We just bought a big, massive.
They did.
85-inch TV.
It's humongous. It's humongous. So, but I love it. I love it. What are some of your favorite things about our family?
I'm always amazed and at how connected you all are at this point in your lives. And I don't worry that there's going to be like any kind of strife between your siblings and you. You might not always agree with everything that they all say or do or whatever, but at the end of the day, that's my sister. That's my brother. Mm-hmm. Of course, I'm going to be there.
Yeah, without question.
One of the most touching favorite things I have about you girls that have children is how much you love your sister's children.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's just, and how much your brother loves your children.
Yes. Yeah.
And so that's one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
And the fact that I have a good relationship with all my kids.
Yeah. Because that's rare. There's so much in a family dynamic that can just go awry, right. Because at the end of the day, like, we are different people. We all have different ideals, different opinions on everything, and sometimes families just don't mesh when they get older, and the personalities and the life drama and all that. But like,
and even though you were all raised in the same house, and I think your basic values, your basic beliefs are pretty much the same.
Yeah.
But you're all such unique individuals, and I appreciate in all of you. I know that I can get what I need on this particular issue.
Yeah.
From this one, or if I just need somebody to talk to of this one, or just
it's a very fascinating
I'm
dynamic.
Very thankful that I have a good relationship with my kids.
Yeah, me too. That's for sure. That's for sure. Who are some people that were really just like instrumental in your life when you were growing up?
My grandmother, Grandma Sweetheart. Spent a lot of time with her. And she wasn't, she wasn't like, she never worked. She didn't work outside the home. But she was a very down-to-earth, loving, I always felt safe with her. She was a big influence on me. Taught me to cook, taught me how to keep a house, taught me how to, do a lot of things.
Yeah.
My other grandmother, I wasn't as close with, but she was just like my mom.
Yeah.
Just like my mom. Yeah. Business, whatever. But she was a big influence on me. We had some dear friends. They're both gone now. Sally and Larry Winger. Sally was a big influence on me.
Yeah.
They had 10 children.
Yeah. That's double what we had. And wasn't it 9 girls and 1 boy? 9 girls,
1 boy.
That sounds
like
a
boy
literal
was the baby.
Hell.
Yeah.
Literal hell.
It was an interesting household.
Just think of hormones, like the syncing of the periods and the sharing of the bathrooms and like the logistics of 5 kids, let alone 10.
But we loved them dearly.
Yeah.
They were good friends. Not necessarily when I was growing up. But when we were
adults.
When we were young adults.
Yeah.
So.
And those friends you have as like young adults and in your adulthood, they're so important.
Yeah.
They really are. I find that more now that I'm older. Like, my friendships are so valuable, but they are so slim. Like, my circle is very small, and I like it like that.
Yeah. Dad and I never have been ones to have real close friends that we socialized with.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
It makes sense. You have each other.
Right.
That's the other thing. Like, I love my best friend. He's my life. Like, I want to do all the things with him, and I think I learned that so much growing up because that was normal to me.
Right.
To stay with one person and work through the hard and do all that, and that's the whole point of life, is find someone you can do the hard with,
right.
because there's a lot of it that comes through.
I feel like and going back to who was an influence when I was a kid, my dad was a big influence on me. He had a very different relationship with me than he did with Mark. Mm-hmm. Mark had a closer relationship with our mom than he did with our dad. Yeah. Till they were older.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's always interesting.
Yeah.
So if you could go back to like your 30-year-old self, or maybe if you look back, is there anything I hate the question, is there anything you'd change, but like, is there anything where you'd like, wow, we would have done that so different? Or any advice you'd give your younger self?
Probably wouldn't have moved clear across the country twice.
Yeah.
We had some really good times in Utah, but it was probably not the best thing for our marriage.
Yeah.
Or our family.
Yeah.
Looking at the big picture.
Yeah.
And a lot of water went under the bridge in Utah. So when we decided to get out of there and came back here, it felt settled.
Yeah.
It felt settled.
Yeah.
So
like starting fresh. This is where things are going to go. Yeah.
Right. You know, and even though it was coming back to where we'd been, and everybody said, oh, you can't go home again. Well, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
So we've been back here almost 30 years.
Yeah.
And that's longer than we were out there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So if I could say anything to my 30-year-old self is, I mean, I had 5 kids at 30 years old.
Yeah.
So, but we never talked about how many kids we were going to have.
Mm-hmm. It just happened.
We knew we wanted a family, but we never sat down with each other and said we wanted 2, we wanted 10, we wanted a boy, we wanted a girl.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is life like now? You guys obviously both retired. Your health. What is your health like these days? Overall.
Overall?
Yes. You wake up every day, so that's good.
I'm still upright, still above ground. Mm-hmm. Most days are okay. Mm-hmm. Some days are not.
Yeah.
Some days I don't feel like I can put one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
Because of all the things that I have going on all the time.
Yeah.
All the health issues that I have had, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then Dad's health isn't the best either. So that's a worry.
Yes.
But we've had multiple discussions about we're okay with where we're at.
Yeah.
Because we don't have a choice, really.
Right.
I mean, we have to be okay with where we're at.
Yep.
Neither one of us are willing to do anything that's like monumental in dealing with our health issues.
Yeah.
It's not like we're going to ignore something if it's fixable and we can feel better and this, that, and the other, but we've never been one to run to the doctor for every little thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, we know a lot of people that they sneeze and they're on their deathbed. So
I know what you mean.
But most days, I think we do okay.
Yeah, I think
we do okay. We're very comfortable with each other. I cannot imagine my life without Dad.
Yeah.
I know it's going to happen to one or the other of us. Mm-hmm. So I try not to think about that too much because
you'll spiral. Yeah.
Right. But like I said, I can't imagine my life without him.
Yeah.
We've been together for so long. I know him better than he knows himself.
Oh, yeah. Or that he can remember.
Or he can hear.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I totally get it.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you're looking forward to in the next couple years?
I hope to be around for my granddaughter's graduations and stuff, and possible marriages.
Couple years, we're facing them down. I mean, the 2 younger are going to be juniors this year, and
yep. Cecilia had her last day of her junior year today.
I know.
Katie said she had a little bit of a meltdown.
Oh yeah.
Just we don't have any monumental plans or anything. Yeah. Dad's cousins are coming from Tennessee in July.
Yeah. That'll be fun.
We're going to Cincinnati in August to see Madden to graduate.
Yeah.
we'd like to get out west to see everybody out there, but we'll just have to see.
Yeah.
So
status quo is a good thing.
Yes.
I like a boring life.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to travel, but other than that, I'm like, I want just mellow yellow Stello.
We're finding that the house we live in is fine. It's the right size. Sometimes we wish it was a little bigger.
Yeah.
The property's becoming a lot.
Yeah. I think you guys should sell off the back half.
Yeah. Well,
it's a lot.
And we've talked about that.
Yeah.
But we do all right with it.
Yeah.
Just
gives you stuff to put around.
I've had to let a lot of things go because I am such a OCD about organization and neatness, and I want the weeds cleaned out, and I want this trimmed, and so that's been a bit of a challenge for me. But
that is hard to let go of control because of life circumstance or health or whatever.
Right.
It's one of those about taking care of yourself in the long run.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
We really enjoy our outdoors living space. Just sitting out there.
Yeah.
Watching the birds.
I'm a big time porch sitter. I love it.
It's just, what are you doing? We're just sitting on the patio.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. I love it. I love it. So what do you hope when you're gone from this world onto your next journey, whatever that looks like, what do you hope people remember about you, Marianne? Not the mom, not the wife, about Marianne.
That I was kind. That I was funny. I used to be funnier than I am. I used to make Dad laugh all the time. I don't know. That's a hard question.
Yeah. Kind and funny or great?
I mean, I've had children for 50 years.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to define myself.
Outside of that.
Outside of
yeah,
being the mom.
Yep.
I've been a wife for almost 53 years. So that's been such a...
Yeah. It makes
that's
who
who
are.
I am.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm Virgil Witt's wife. I'm Sarah, Mike, Amanda, Kate, and Adrian's mom. I'm Mark's sister.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm very... This is totally off the course here.
That's all right.
I am so happy that Uncle Mark is happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
He spent a lot of years being unhappy, and it makes my heart smile that he is happy.
That's your brother.
He's my brother.
Yeah. You always want your siblings to do well and be happy.
And
absolutely.
He there isn't anything Mark wouldn't do for me.
Yeah.
Or Verge.
Yep.
Or Dad, whatever. He thinks of your dad as his brother.
Yeah.
And Dad thinks the same.
Exactly.
So,
exactly. Well, good.
That was kind of random, but
that's all right. No, it's a thing about you. No, I totally agree. Yeah. I love it.
So
good. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the world and the universe of podcasting?
I have to say how proud I am of you.
Thank you.
And your growing business and your determination and the amazing mother that you are.
Thank you.
And wife that you are. And
Mama didn't raise no bitch, okay?
No. I think all my kids are good people.
Yes.
They're good people.
Yes.
And I consider all of my children, not just I love them because they're my kids, but I consider them to be my friends.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we learned how to work hard. We learned how to say what we mean.
Right.
We learned how to stick up for ourselves, even within our own group of, 5 kids young, you learn how to stand up for yourself.
Right.
And I always say, I learned how to be a mom and who I am because of my folks. Everyone has their flaws and their challenges, but I had a great childhood and growing up was fun. And I have nothing but, of course, there's always drama and things like that.
Right.
But overarching, I wouldn't change a thing.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you have those good memories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they're bad, they've gone away.
Yeah.
This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you coming on.
Well,
and now
I was a little anxious.
I know, but what did you think?
It was good. It was easy.
Yeah. Now we just have this conversation. I love it because I can always look back on this forever and have these memories. And I've enjoyed doing this conversation and either relearning or learning things for the first time or the second time. But I really appreciate it, and thank you so much. And I love you with all my heart.
I love you too.
Good. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Again, if you want to come on the Loud Reset, just go to my website and let me know. I open it up to anyone. We can talk about anything you want to talk about. I just like to freeform with the people that I find valuable in my life. So thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and have a good